Scene 81, take one.
Jett rolling. I'm Jett Jackson, which actually was the dog's name, Jett. Laura Lee Jackson, but it didn't look right on paintings. I had 6 or 7 pseudonyms: Madam X, Flax and Jackson, my friends used to call me, so it was Flax. But Jett looked really good on the paintings, just the 4 little letters. Also, it was androgynous. Couldn't tell if I was a guy or a girl, which was good. I never meant to take it as my name, but at CalArts in 78, 79, it was too confusing to have 2 names, so it just went with Jett. Lived a lot of places, done a lot of things, but after CalArts, one day I was in the Los Angeles County Museum of Art and saw a girl I knew from CalArts who was crazy, Anna Honey Han. And I thought, I'm going to turn around and walk away. She won't see me. I made about 10 feet, and then I hear my name, Jett. Next thing I know, I'm in a punk rock hair salon, get my hair cut, and then we're at Al's Bar, and 30 days I was living here. It was late November 1981, and I tried to leave several times. Switzerland, different lofts, Alaska, all these things. And I was around till 1988, 89 for 7 to 7.5 years. I always swore I'd come back to the American Hotel and rent the whole top floor. Right now I'm in transition, just coming back to LA from a gig in North Carolina for a couple of years. And it's just really weird to be here. I came back from Alaska and I was staying with my mom in the valley, painting Christmas windows for a living. And I came down to Al's Bar all by myself one night. It was so fucking dark and there were people there and it was very gritty. You know, you walk into a bar as a girl by yourself, you got to get your bearings. Can't just sit down somewhere. You got to see what's what. So I thought I'll go to the bathroom, gather myself, and then come back and cruise the situation. So I go into the bathroom, and there's 5 people in there, like 3 guys and 2 girls, and they're all doing coke off the bathroom counter. So I'm like, oh, whoa. So I turn around, backed out, and I walked immediately out of Al's Bar because I never got my bearings. And if it hadn't been for Anna Hunt later bringing me back, I would have never come back. You walk in through this porthole door, and there's a pool table, which is a lot of the activity. It gives people something to do. There wasn't always live music. It was the greatest jukebox in the world. You had the Sex Pistols next to Marlene Dietrich, very eclectic. There were certain people, like the famous Dr. Don Jones. Once you meet him, you've met everyone because he will then introduce you to everyone. There was also an innocence to it. As a girl, you could walk in by yourself, and it wasn't also predatory. It was just a wonderful group of people to talk to. The conversation was great. When live bands took over, it changed the complexion of the place. There was a lot less having conversations and running into people because it was so fucking loud. To be honest, a lot less hookups that way, too. People don't get to meet and greet. So you bands, you got to rethink that a little bit to leave enough breathing room for people to still hang out. One night in Al's Bar, and the next thing I know, I'm renting the spaces. They're $100 a month. Who could beat that? When I was flush, I had 2 rooms. That was really living it up, $200 a month. But it wasn't just for down and out people. There was a lot of great people who lived here. An amazing group of writers, artists, or people who just liked art. And then there were older, younger, just a great eclectic mix. And like I said, I tried to leave. I'd go and live in another loft or go out of the country. It was very Godfather-ish, you know, keep pulling me back in. Because it was always the solution. It was affordable, it was great. Your living room's a bar, and just wonderful people. When Ray Newton redecorated his room, he needed me to go with him to Sears to pick out drapes. And they were real, like, elegant grandma drapes with the big swoops and valances and whatever. And he put a chandelier in there and a big wingback chair with blue toile design. It was the most elegant room anybody ever saw in the American Hotel. There were people who had goth rooms. It was all black and tarps and parachutes. Being a painter, I had to have a studio and all my work stuff. So the walls looked like a crazy quilt of paintings. People couldn't believe that I painted in a 10 by 15 foot room and lived there. It didn't seem to bother me. The bed is the command center, and you pull up the easel and the little cart with the paints on the side and just go, go, go. It concentrates your efforts because you can't get away from the painting. It's always there. You go to sleep at night and you wake up in the morning, it's right there in your face. You don't wander into the den or the backyard. Well, you do tend to wander down to the bar, though. It was amazing, all the people who did play here when they'd play. Top Jimmy and the Rhythm Pigs, and Ry Cooder played one 4th of July. All those regulars were out on the street because we didn't want to pay the cover. And oh God, I remember up in the American Hotel, crawling around through the window back to the other roof, and then Big J's there ready to catch me so I can get in for free. And all of a sudden he looks there, Mike Kreisel, the owner, is standing right next to him, and he dropped me. And I had a bruise this big for like 2 months. But it didn't seem right if you lived upstairs that you had to pay to get in, because it was noisy as shit, man. You're living with this till 2 a.m. every night, and if you have to go to work the next day, that was kind of intense. And then old George emptying the beer bottles was the worst, like at 2:30 in the morning after the bar was closed, just crashing of glass into the dumpsters for like an hour. It's had some hardships. Although on occasion I was able to get somebody to deliver pitchers of beer from downstairs to upstairs if it was the right bartender. It's not really a hotel. There's no concierge, nothing like that. It brings out your creativity. It's a 10 by 15 foot room with a little bed and a bare bulb, bathrooms down the hall. You see it in a lot of like Bogart type movies. You had to have your bucket of your stuff, the shower essentials and your toilet paper. And I believe I had one bathrobe that was outlawed at some point, some ratty old hair cloth thing with holes all over. It's not that it was too sexy or anything. It was just more a pot kettle, you know. But you'd see Jesse Easter coming down in a towel and cowboy boots, going to put his 10X in his hair in the bathroom. And if you met somebody and had them spend the night, you'd have to kind of like give them the drill of how this place worked. Bathrooms down the hall, you know, you can't go naked, and here's my bathrobe. And some guy with a window on the street just started peeing out the window. I'm like, no, you can't do this. And a lot of people didn't have telephones. So there's a guy who's still around named Emilio, but he used another name for a while, Jesse. But he lived above Jesse Easter, and Jesse was the band guy and real popular. And people go, Jesse! Up at the window. And Emilio would look out thinking it was for him. And after a while, he had to change his name back to Emilio. There were always interesting clothing solutions. Sometimes I would just have hooks all over the wall for all the clothes. And then somebody was throwing out some fabulous bookcase and you could jerry-rig it in there. And just a lot of creativity in how to live in a small space. It can be done. Eating at the American Hotel was challenging. You had to figure out some things in the small little refrigerator deal. Most people didn't have the big ones. I discovered this fabulous drink. It was tequila and Tang, because I didn't have to have refrigerated orange juice, because drinks are what took up a lot of room in the refrigerator. And Yoo-hoo and vodka, you can make fake White Russians. The greatest day of my life, of memories in the American Hotel, was actually when I'd done a little film crew shoot with some local USC kids, and the next day a huge film company had a shoot out front, and the whole street front was filled with people. I mean, hundreds and hundreds. They had all these extras and this gigantic crew. And then I'd wake up, and I remember looking out with my sunglasses on and a cigarette, just looking out at the morning, and I see my little film crew guys, and I go, hey, how are you guys? Good morning. And they go, hey, good morning, how are you? And then the whole street picked up on it like a wave. And I guess it's just my head sticking out of that whole building, out of the window. And there were hundreds of people saying, good morning. And I thought, man, I want to wake up this way every day. That was great. George was not only a character, but the caretaker. He had one outfit: brown pants, white shirt, that cheapest cotton with the sleeves to here, and this brownish grayish fedora hat that he always had. People were constantly trying to tip the hat back because there was a rumor he had a scar from his lobotomy up there. I remember a lot of practical jokers trying to get that hat off. And George would sweep and mop the hotel, and I believe clean out the bar at night. And that was basically his job, and he lived down at the end of the first floor. And he would be very persnickety, and I'm not sure if he was really all there, but he was lifted out of like a Damon Runyon novel or something, some guy, yeah, see, or whatever. He was from a different era. He would kind of police the hallways as well. Anytime you walked out your door, if you had just said hello to a neighbor, no talking in the hallways. He was really grumpy about it. And for years, there was the rumor, the legend, that George had a woman in his room. I lived on that first floor for maybe a year and a half. I never saw a woman. This was BS, and more like the lobotomy story. And years later, we find out, oh, here we go again. Oh, we're talking about the earthquake story next.
Oh, no, we're moving.
Yeah, we are.
We're moving.
I just knew if I came back, this would happen. but it's long and still rumbling. They all have their different personalities.
Okay, so
We could take a quick smoke break, I think. This would be a good time
Okay,
for a
let's
real
cut.
cigarette. A little rockin' and rollin'. Yeah, that has happened here before. In the 80s, there was quite a big one. And that was something to be living here. It was the first time you really, really took stock of what it's like to live in a brick building in an earthquake zone. So I'd always had a plan for like fires and stuff because there were 2 exits that you could make, but what if you couldn't get down there because of the smoke? So I used to really lose a lot of sleep over that. And then I thought, I had this futon bed, like a soft one, and I thought I roll myself up in it like a hot dog, and then I hurl myself out, so I'd probably be okay. Maybe I'd bust a hip, but I'd live. And I slept like a baby after that because I had a plan. There was a girl across from me who had the plan on her door. Big giant poster and all this stuff to do in the event of an earthquake. And so this big one hits, throwing up on her doors. It was early morning and we're all rushing out down the street. And she's got her bottled water and canned food and whatever. I had a half carton of cigarettes, 3/4 of a bottle of tequila, and a tube of lipstick. Let me tell you who was more popular. Because, you know, that Red Cross is going to be in here with water eventually. But they're not bringing lipstick and cigarettes. You know, the tequila could be also used for wounds.
And here's another aftershock or another earthquake happening right now. I'm not sure which. I'm going to get under this desk. I apologize for the theatrics.
It's a scary thing, the earthquakes. You can laugh them off, but they all have their own different personalities. One night there was one in like 3 in the morning, and it was like a roller, the one that goes like this. You immediately go into kind of that panic mode. You freeze. You're usually naked if you're sleeping or something, and you just got to get shoes and something to wear. And all of a sudden I hear somebody down the hall as it's rolling, and they go, hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. And I thought, yeah, yippee-yi-yay-ki-yay, like Slim Pickens on the atom bomb in Dr. Strangelove. Immediately I felt better and we all kind of went back to sleep. But usually the procedure is then you all go out in the street and you talk about it for days and days, where you were and what you were doing and all your little earthquake stories. That big one actually in 87, it was quite the party on the street. People were coming from lofts from miles around, cruising, because nobody wanted to go back indoors for a while. That was a bad one. And that tequila went pretty damn quick. I should have a half gallon next time. One of the deals was when you need George for anything, like if you got locked out of your room, you would go and knock on his door, and he would only ever open up this much. And he had this great view of just like 8,000 paper cups in a row and hamburger meat frying in the background. I saw him once at Grand Central Market, and he was buying like the brown meat, the cheaper one that was they were going to throw out. He was a real skinflint. And then there's all the legends later of when he passed away, and it turns out he had a lot of money. Something like 150 grand or something. All this revelation later of somebody you'd known for years and years and thought pretty straightforwardly about them because their life seemed, it was what it was. But George was rich and he lived here and ate old hamburger meat. And he had a woman in his room and she peed in a bucket and la la la. And anybody who lived here for that long would be lying and say they didn't pee in the trash can once or twice instead of going down the hall. That's just going to happen. Bona fide movie star, lived in the American Hotel. Oh, she was great. We called her Susu, or Shoo-Shoo. Susan Terrell. She usually played the older woman Lush.
I want to knock your brains out.
She has a host of credits. Some of the more famous ones were a cult film called Forbidden Zone with Danny and Rick Elfman.
My life is like nobody else's, there's only one of me.
She was dating Hervé Villechaize, the guy from The Plane, Boston Plane, Fantasy Island. And then the next week she would be dating like the guy who did the blue blocker sunglasses commercials.
My name is Geek. I put them on as a shocker. Man, I love these blue blockers.
She had a really eclectic taste in men, a circus clown, Al Pacino, Johnny Depp. She got around. She played Johnny Depp's mom in Cry Baby. Fat City nominated for an Academy Award.
Just get out of this joint.
Fabulous scene of hers, a total drunken lush, and Stacy Keach behind her, zipping up her dress as they're exiting a bar. She actually moved into the American Hotel to recover from plastic surgery. She was hiding out. You got to remember, this is not just a down and out place. There were down and out people here, but it was a host of writers and actors and artists and painters and just all around groovy people. And so it was a fun place to live. And I'd actually known her before, and that might have been part of why she moved in. We were neighbors and hung out a lot and really good friends. She was compared by the LA Weekly to Norma Desmond in Sunset Boulevard on a bad day. She was a wonderful, pleasant person, but when you give actors this dramatic license to be dramatic in love relationships, she was going to use these dramatic lines. Tennessee Williams wrote things about her, and she knew everyone and everything, and she was in Andy Warhol's band, and she always had feuds with people, and then they were back friends. And later, she had a rare blood disease and lost her legs. She only recently passed away. She made it for a long time without her legs. She was great till the end, and she just kind of petered away on acting. She didn't enjoy it as much anymore. One of her last films with Bob Dylan, he patted her on the head, and she had a little issue with that. She was fabulous, and she lived in the American Hotel.
There's only one of me.
I met some guy in Al's bar, followed him to Switzerland, and stayed there for about a year. And when you travel in Europe, you ask somebody what time it is, and next thing you know, you're having spaghetti at their grandma's house. They really take you in. And once I stayed in Switzerland with people, Swiss people started knocking my door at the American Hotel at midnight, need somewhere to stay. And I ended up staying for a month. That was just crazy. Don Jones, at some little arts festival we went to, he gave them all mushrooms. And it's like, that's not right. These 3 guys in my room, don't give them drugs. When he had the 2 rooms, you could fit 10 or 15 people in there. Jesse Easter's band, Barbed Wire, 13-piece band, would practice in my room or just hang out. I mistakenly gave him a key, and I'd come home and all my beer would be gone. Those dudes, man, they really used me too much. They'd come over, oh, it's 3 o'clock, we have to watch Rifleman. Late night jam sessions with percussive instruments like scissors, or Rick Cox would bring his saxophone. And then old George would come by and turn off the electricity, thinking that would shut us down, so we'd be quiet for a little while, so he'd think it worked. And then he'd go away and we'd start up again. And there were events like Thanksgiving was great. Everybody brought their toaster ovens in. I had like 6 toaster ovens in there. We all went to the market on 4th Street and got Swanson turkey TV dinners for Thanksgiving. And we're just putting them over and over again into little toaster ovens and having our feast. I was big about nesting and having a comfortable place to be. So there were a lot of good times. But, I just let it happen, and that was the running crowd I had. But I look back at all that time I wasted with those hoodlums. Yeah, but I love them dearly.
Cut.